We have a major breaking news from Liberia. So yesterday, people went out on the streets. People across all African countries went out on the streets to protest in solidarity of Captain Ibrahim Traore. But it's so sad to announce that while people were protesting in Liberia, there were some officers who were sent, literally sent by their government to arrest people who are protesting, who are peacefully protesting in solidarity of Captain Ibrahim Traore. And this is the same thing that Captain Ibrahim Traore always say, that there are some people in Africa that are sellouts. There are people who will do anything to work with the West. There are people who will always support even the evil that are being done by the West. And as we speak, there are a number of youths in Liberia who were arrested, who were protesting in solidarity of Captain Ibrahim Traore. Remember, these people never did anything wrong. They never destroyed anything. They were just protesting and marching in solidarity and in support of Captain Ibrahim Traore.
With all due respect, shame on the Liberian government. Watching the recent live stream of peaceful protests unfolding in Liberia, I was struck by the disturbing image of police officers confronting citizens, threatening them with arrest simply for expressing solidarity with Captain Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso. It was a peaceful demonstration, yet the response was heavy-handed, a clear signal of discomfort from those in power. What's happening across the African continent today is no less than a revolution, a surge of consciousness sweeping from Burkina Faso to Ghana, Liberia, and beyond. At the heart of this wave stands a young, bold military leader, Captain Ibrahim Traore, just 37 years old, who has become a living symbol of African resistance, dignity, and the struggle for self-rule. On April 30, 2025, thousands of people poured into the streets in cities across Africa. Their unified chant, "Hands off the AES! Long live Captain Traore!" was more than just a slogan. It was an expression of deep-rooted frustration, pride, and defiance. These demonstrations were sparked by an attempted coup in Burkina Faso, allegedly orchestrated from Ivory Coast, and fanned by provocative comments from U.S. AFRICOM Commander General Michael Langley. The events revealed a rising tide of Pan-Africanism that has left many African heads of state exposed, embarrassed, and fearful. For the first time in recent memory, Africans aren't just rising for their own nations, they're rallying to protect a leader in another country. While many presidents remain in hiding from their own people's disappointment, citizens across borders are demanding justice and sovereignty. It's more than a protest. It's a turning point. In Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou, the Plaza de la Revolution turned into a roaring sea of flags, banners, and determined voices. Thousands rallied for Captain Traore and the military junta he leads, reacting fiercely to the uncovering of a plot on April 21st, which the military claims was designed to oust Traore through foreign interference. At the center of this anger was General Langley's accusation, delivered to the U.S. Senate on April 3rd, that Traore was misusing the country's gold. Protesters saw this as nothing short of an imperialist smear campaign. In response, demonstrators in Ouagadougou waved both Burkina Faso's national colors and Russian flags, signaling Traore's shift toward alliances beyond traditional Western powers. Some banners labeled Langley with the word "slave" in bold red ink. Chants echoed through the crowd, "Long live Captain Traore," rejecting foreign interference in African affairs. But what sets this movement apart is its reach. In Monrovia, Liberia, citizens defied their government to stage a peaceful march in support of Traore. Protesters marched to the Ivorian embassy, wielding signs condemning U.S. and Ivorian involvement in Burkina Faso's political affairs. They called for an end to meddling and demanded respect for Burkina Faso's sovereignty, insisting that Traore is delivering real development and deserves the space to govern. Their plan to submit petitions to other diplomatic outposts was thwarted by Liberian National Police, citing a lack of permits. The situation escalated, and arrests were made, clearly reflecting the discomfort Traore's rising influence is creating among African elites. Authorities didn't just silence protest, they revealed the fragile confidence of leadership afraid of its own people. In Ghana, members of the socialist movement held their own solidarity rally, hailing Traore as a beacon of African honor and resistance. "Hands off the AES," they shouted, a reference to the Alliance of Sahel States, a newly formed bloc of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger that is asserting a bold front against neo-colonialism. Support has even come from as far as South Africa and Nigeria, with protesters either traveling to Burkina Faso or organizing actions in their own cities. One Liberian, Seko N. Soma Dukali, who traveled to Ouagadougou, spoke with emotion, I came here to stand with Captain Traoré. He represents hope for Africa, for black people, and for freedom fighters everywhere. This momentum has not been limited to Africa. Across Europe and the Americas, diaspora communities and anti-imperialist movements have taken up the cause. Traoré's call for sovereignty resonates beyond borders. It speaks to a global desire for dignity and self-determination. To understand the passion behind this movement, one must look at the man himself. Since assuming power in September 2022, in the second coup that year, Captain Ibrahim Traoré has been likened to the legendary Thomas Sankara. At only 34, he vowed to restore Burkina Faso's dignity, strengthen its security, and reclaim its economy from the grip of exploitative foreign forces. And he's been delivering. Unlike many African leaders who talk about progress while quietly serving foreign interests, Traoré has taken action. He expelled French military forces. He tore up mining agreements that looted the nation's resources. He scrapped the CFA franc, a colonial currency tying West Africa's fate to France. Instead, Traoré has redirected national wealth toward grassroots development, prioritizing healthcare, education, and food security. Even as Western powers slapped his government with sanctions, he persisted. His nationalization of Burkina Faso's gold industry particularly outraged Washington. "We will mine our gold, not for France, not for the West, but for our people," he declared. That phrase now echoes as a battle cry across the continent. Beyond economics, Traoré is pushing for regional unity. He helped create the AES Confederation, a pact with Mali and Niger that prioritizes African cooperation without Western oversight. This alliance, formally established in July 2024, challenges the dominance of ECOWAS, which many now see as a vehicle for Western agendas. Traoré's vision for Africa, a continent free of imperialist manipulation and united by shared prosperity, has inspired millions. His authenticity only fuels his appeal. A former schoolboy turned counterterrorism officer, Traoré shuns lavish suits for military fatigues. He speaks plainly, powerfully. At the AES summit in Niger, he didn't mince words. This continent still burns in the fire of imperialism. He called for bold action, not empty declarations. This surge of support has rattled many African governments. In Liberia, President Joseph Bokai's administration responded to peaceful protests with arrests and threats, a desperate move reflecting deeper fears. When citizens risk jail to support a foreign leader, it raises an uncomfortable question. What faith remains in their own? In Ivory Coast, President Alassane Ouattara now faces allegations of collaborating with the West to destabilize Burkina Faso. These claims, amplified by both protesters and Burkina Faso's military, have deepened regional tensions. Demonstrations outside Ivorian embassies have highlighted public disgust and thrown a spotlight on Ouattara's vulnerability. Elsewhere, leaders like Nigeria's Bola Tinubu and Kenya's William Ruto are watching nervously as their own citizens take up the pro-Traoré cause. The message is clear: the old order is cracking. Governments propped up by Western loans, foreign troops, and extractive industries are increasingly seen as illegitimate by their people. As one Ghanaian demonstrator put it, "Our leaders borrow billions, and we get inflation and excuses." Traoré is building schools with gold. Why can't ours do the same? This is not simply about Traoré, it's about what he represents. His rise exposes the hollow promises of too many African presidents. While they enrich foreign corporations and cling to power through manipulated elections, Traoré has charted a different course. He has called out Western hypocrisy and named the African collaborators who enable it. He's refused to be a puppet. Even the CIA has acknowledged the threat his example poses, warning of a domino effect that could, if unchecked, transform Africa into a global superpower within 15 years. The fear among African elites is real and justified. The resistance to Western dominance has grown louder. In countries like Senegal, Cameroon, and Ivory Coast, citizens are now calling for the removal of Western troops and the end of exploitative economic agreements. Traoré's bold moves have become a template, and his alignment with Russia and China is seen not as subservience, but as a calculated shift in strategy. All of this has ignited a revolution far greater than one man. Social media is flooded with messages of support. "Every black person on earth must stand with Captain Ibrahim Traoré," one user posted, capturing the global emotional power behind the movement. While many African presidents still seek validation at Western institutions like Davos and the UN, Traoré has chosen a different audience: workers, youth, the everyday people. His message, rooted in sovereignty, self-reliance, and authenticity, is reshaping the continent's political landscape. The April 30th protests were not just historic, they were transformative. The sight of citizens from Monrovia to Accra rallying for a leader in Ouagadougou has laid bare a painful truth. Many African governments no longer speak for their people. Traoré, in contrast, has earned trust through action, not rhetoric. And yet, the governments that arrest, suppress, and intimidate fail to realize something vital. This is bigger than any one protest. It's a movement. Arrests in Liberia won't stop it. If anything, they stoke its flames. As one Burkinabe protester said, if they want to eliminate Traoré, they'll have to eliminate us all. That is the heart of what's happening. Traoré's revolution is rooted in the will of the people. It's a movement that refuses to be crushed by threats, by silence, or by coups. It is a wake-up call. It is Africa's reckoning. Change won't come in one day, but it has begun. And as the continent rises, African leaders have a choice: evolve with the people, or be left behind in a tide of transformation they can no longer control. For those in power, the path forward is no longer a mystery. It's a mandate from the people. The events of April 30th, 2025, serve as an unflinching mirror to African leadership. Citizens are no longer satisfied with hollow rhetoric or puppet regimes that nod to colonial powers while their nations suffer. The crowds marching under the banner of Captain Ibrahim Traoré aren't merely showing loyalty to a man, they are expressing a profound longing for transformation. In Burkina Faso, despite being under economic siege and international scrutiny, Traoré's administration continues to function with a rare clarity of purpose: to serve its people first. Roads are being paved. Clinics and schools are being opened. Gold, once siphoned abroad, is now used to fund local development. Even his harshest critics cannot deny that Traoré has prioritized the needs of his citizens above foreign interests, a move few African leaders have dared to attempt. Meanwhile, many African presidents find themselves scrambling, not just to contain protests, but to reframe their own legacies. Suddenly, questions once avoided now dominate public discourse. Why do we still host foreign troops? Why is our currency tied to a former colonizer? Why can't we nationalize our own resources? These questions aren't whispered anymore. They're shouted in the streets and broadcast online for millions to hear. And it's the youth, the largest and most restless demographic on the continent, who are leading this charge. They're tired of excuses, tired of recycled leadership, rigged elections, and economies that grow while families starve. In Traoré, they see not a messiah, but a symbol of possibility. A leader who proves that courage, clarity, and conviction can achieve more than decades of diplomacy and submission. African leaders must take heed. The game has changed. The traditional alliances that once guaranteed power are weakening under the pressure of public awakening. The IMF no longer inspires confidence. Military pacts with the West no longer guarantee legitimacy. African unity, long spoken of but seldom practiced, is now emerging, not through bureaucracies like ECOWAS, but through popular movements and regional cooperation like the AES. And yet, the stakes are high. There are real threats, foreign and domestic, that could derail this movement. Coups, economic sabotage, or external military intervention are still possible. But if there's anything the April protests have shown, it's that the people are ready to resist not only foreign meddling, but also the local agents who enable it. In Liberia, the crackdown on peaceful protesters backfired, drawing condemnation and increasing public sympathy for their cause. In Ghana, the spontaneous rallies caught many by surprise, revealing a public far more politically aware than their leaders assume. In Nigeria, Kenya, Senegal, and Ivory Coast, a silent pressure now builds: reform or face revolt. Meanwhile, the diaspora continues to play a crucial role. Across Europe and North America, Africans abroad are organizing, fundraising, educating, and amplifying the message. This is no longer a domestic African matter, it's a global black movement. From Harlem to Hamburg, from Soweto to Stockholm, people are paying attention. Captain Ibrahim Traoré's rise has not come without controversy, nor is it free from flaws. But what is undeniable is his impact. He has reignited a continent's dream. He has redefined what African leadership can look like. And he has shown that resistance is not only possible, it is necessary. As this story continues to unfold, the choice for African leaders is clear. They can follow the example of Traoré by investing in their people, asserting sovereignty, rejecting exploitation, and embracing unity. Or they can watch, powerless, as their people look elsewhere for leadership. Because one thing is now certain, the people have found their voice. And once a people awaken, no force, foreign or domestic, can put them back to sleep. This awakening is not a fleeting moment, it is a shift in the soul of a continent. The solidarity that erupted on April 30, 2025, was not orchestrated by politicians, NGOs, or foreign benefactors. It was sparked from the ground up, by people who have had enough of being silenced, sold out, and spoken for. It was a surge of truth shouted through chants and placards, echoed in songs and speeches, and immortalized in viral videos, hashtags, and the determined march of feet on hot pavement. What Traoré represents is not just defiance, it's direction. He has thrown a challenge at the feet of every president, every cabinet, every parliamentary seat across Africa. Prove your legitimacy through action, not titles. Dismantle systems of dependency, or be dismantled by the people. Break from foreign control, or face the wrath of a generation unwilling to inherit chains. The narrative is shifting. The West, long used to dictating terms to Africa, is now on the defensive. Its embassies are surrounded by protests, its generals are discredited by crowds waving anti-imperialist slogans, and its financial institutions are being openly questioned. More importantly, their traditional allies on the continent, the political elites, are finding it harder to protect them without exposing themselves. Even now, behind closed doors, meetings are being held. Strategies are being revised. The fear is palpable, not just of a man in military fatigues leading Burkina Faso, but of the idea that he may have lit a fire that will sweep across the continent. That he may have, however unintentionally, reminded Africans of what real power looks like, people in motion, united and unafraid. If Africa is to rise, it will not be because of promises made in international summits. It will not be because of investments that strip the land while enriching outsiders. It will rise because its people are rising, demanding leaders who don't just speak their language, but act in their interest. The story of April 30th will be remembered not just for the crowds, not just for the chants, but for what it revealed, a continent no longer content with survival. A people no longer sedated by slogans. A generation that has learned to see through the suits and speeches, and now seeks substance. Traoré's Burkina Faso is far from perfect, and the road ahead is anything but easy. But in a world where so many leaders retreat into palaces and promises, he has walked into the storm, and the people have followed. So let the message ring out, from Ouagadougou to Monrovia, from Accra to Abuja, from Johannesburg to London to Atlanta, Africa is stirring. The youth are watching. The streets are speaking. The old era is crumbling. And the future belongs not to those who cling to power, but to those who earn it. Let history note this moment not as an isolated protest, but as a rebirth. A point where the tide turned. A time when Africans stopped asking for permission and started building a continent on their own terms. If that's the legacy of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, then it is already a monumental one, not because he sought to be idolized, but because he chose to lead where others feared to stand. And so the continent moves forward, not behind one man, but beyond the chains that have held it for too long. As Africa marches forward, one undeniable truth has crystallized. The people are no longer asleep, and their eyes are no longer turned toward the West for validation or salvation. They are looking inward and across their own borders, finding strength not in colonial constructs but in the shared struggle and shared destiny of Africans. This isn't merely a political moment, it's a psychological emancipation. From the chanting protesters in Monrovia who braved police intimidation, to the Ghanaian youth rallying in defiance of complacent leadership, to the Burkinabe citizens who stand daily behind a captain that many now call their generation Sankara, each one has chosen to believe that a better Africa is not only possible but inevitable. And the ripples are spreading. Where once imperial flags fluttered above African soil, now they are being pulled down, physically, symbolically, economically. In their place rise banners painted by the people, slogans written in dust and sweat, voices calling not just for justice, but for renewal. The message is plain. Africa will no longer be managed. It will be self-led. The fear gripping many African capitals today is not of war, it is of irrelevance. Presidents who once wielded power with impunity now watch their citizens rally for a foreign captain with more authenticity in his silence than they have in their longest speeches. They see young Africans rejecting old alliances, old debts, old doctrines. But this fear need not be fatal. It can be instructive. It can be the fire that melts ego into humility. For those leaders who choose to listen, who are willing to transform rather than suppress, this moment offers an unprecedented opportunity to align with their people, to break free from outdated dependencies, and to lead with courage, not convenience. Captain Ibrahim Traore has shown that leadership rooted in integrity and boldness can ignite a continent. His revolution is not perfect, nor complete, but it is real. And more importantly, it is collective. It belongs to the farmers who want fair prices, the students who want books, the mothers who want clinics, and the workers who want wages that mean something. His legacy is being written not just in Burkina Faso, but in the hearts of those who dared to hope again. And his challenge to the status quo has become a blueprint, a litmus test for every leader who now stands before their people with hollow promises. This is no longer about protest. It is about power, people's power. It is about reclaiming Africa, not from one government or another, but from an entire system of exploitation, manipulation, and betrayal. It is about saying, at last, enough. So let the echo of April 30th continue to ring. Let it be remembered not as the day of a protest, but as the dawn of a reckoning. Let the names of those who marched, unarmed yet unafraid, be etched alongside the man who stood when so many knelt. Africa is moving. The chains are rattling. The future is calling. And to the leaders still clutching the past, the warning is clear. Lead with your people, or be left behind by history. And so, as this chapter in Africa's story unfolds, it becomes clear that this is more than politics, it's about purpose. It's not just about Captain Ibrahim Traore. It's about you. Me. It's about the millions of voices that have been ignored for far too long. It's about our right to dignity, to sovereignty, to walk in the fullness of our identity without apology or permission. This isn't just Burkina Faso's fight, it's Africa's awakening. We are living in a rare moment. One where the tides of history are turning, and for the first time in a generation, the direction is being set not by foreign hands, but by Africans, standing tall in their own power. The question now is, will you be a part of it? If you felt even a flicker of hope, of anger, of pride, of urgency while listening to this message, then don't let it stop at emotion. Turn that feeling into action. Subscribe to this channel, not for me, but for the movement, so you can stay informed, stay connected, and be part of the story as it continues to unfold. Like this video, not because it's trending, but because every click helps push this truth into spaces where lies have lingered for too long. And most importantly, share this message with your friends, your family, your community. Post it, repost it, talk about it. Let this truth travel farther than any propaganda ever could. Because somewhere tonight, in a town without electricity, a young African is dreaming of something better. Somewhere, a mother is wondering if her child will ever grow up free from exploitation. Somewhere, a student is questioning everything they were taught about who holds the power in this world. Let them know they are not alone. Let them see that a continent is rising. Let them feel what we now know deep in our bones, that Africa is not waiting to be saved. It is standing up to save itself. So stand with us. Speak with us. March with us. This is our time. This is our voice. This is our revolution. Now go. Hit subscribe, like, and share, because this message is not just a video. It's a movement, and the world needs to hear it.